Hi guys, it's Nika and it's time to return to my regular create a sim videos where I create or make over my characters from the last 6 or 7 years, and I ramble over the recording where I make them over. But we are kind of still staying in that vampiric mood that I set up in October, because today's character is Miss. Sorry, not Miss. I mean, yeah, no, no, not anymore. Today's character is Lady Jillian van Herten, and she is, or rather, she was, Caleb's love interest from many, many decades ago. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate creating historical sims. Or, well, I don't hate them, or I don't hate creating them. I'm just really anxious and I really overthink it. And I want them to be as historically accurate as possible. But this is The Sims 4 and you're not gonna get it too accurate probably, right? So I'm very anxious about that. And then there's also another voice in my head that is like, you don't need to spend 2 hours looking up all the possible historically accurate CC. You don't need to do that. You'll be fine with what you already have in your game. And then I usually find out that that is not the case and I should have gone CC shopping. The one time when CC shopping would have been actually very useful and my CC folder would thank me for it, but no. I don't go CC shopping, I just improvise on the spot. So yeah, if you see something that is wildly inappropriate for, let's say, the second half of the 19th century, please just close your eyes. In fact, I probably also know that it's not accurate. And yeah, I was closing my eyes, turning away. I was pretending I do not see it as well. Just it's The Sims, it's probably not gonna be accurate. I mean, there are a lot of people who do historical gameplay in The Sims 4, and I have a lot of respect for you, because that must be hard, and I cannot imagine how you do it, and you guys are so cool, seriously. But let's talk about Jillian today. So Jillian was a wife of a old wealthy lord, but he actually wasn't at home a lot. He was traveling a lot, and he was traveling without his young wife, and she was at home alone a lot of times for weeks and for months. And one time they were hosting a masquerade party, a masquerade ball, and the Tor siblings, Caleb and Lilith, they got invited, or they somehow snuck in, or so, I cannot remember now. I should have looked it up, because I know I wrote about this on my Tumblr years ago. But they got to the party, they came to the party, you know, all masked and everything. And in the wise words of Taylor Swift, sparks flew instantly between Caleb and Jillian. And obviously they had to keep it very, I would say, discreet. Like, her husband was right there, and they couldn't really show that that something happened the very first moment they saw each other. But you know, then Jill's, I don't know, I keep calling her just Jill, I don't know why. Jillian's husband then again went away for a few weeks, and so, you know, Caleb just started visiting Jill secretly, and they were hanging out a lot, and they were madly in love. And Jillian, one thing I have to say about her, she really loves stories. She loves reading scary stories about ghosts and creatures, and yeah, I think she would really enjoy all those like gothic novels that were coming out in like that time period. And she quickly realized that her new lover was not human. And she figured out that he's actually a vampire. And she told him she figured it out and that she knows what he is. And Caleb didn't deny it. He was like, yes, that's what I am. And I'm sorry, my mind suddenly started thinking about Twilight, and I don't know why. Anyway, so he admitted it, and she was like, make me a vampire too, and let's run away. I hate my life as it is. And Caleb refused. He had his reasons. He still felt this guilt about being a vampire and like he should not be alive, and at the same time he was too afraid to die and to face the punishment that he thought would surely be coming for him because he turned away from God and blah blah blah. I've sort of mentioned this in a previous video, in the mansion video. So that was one reason. He didn't want her to be doomed the same way. And second, I mentioned in the video where I renovated the Vator mansion, I mentioned that in the beginning of their vampiric existence, Caleb and Lilith were with this cruel vampire coven, and at this point in the story, they had run away from them a long time ago. But the coven didn't forgive them for what they did, and they were still looking for them. And every now and then the siblings had to move because their coven figured out where they are, and they wanted their revenge. And Caleb just couldn't do that to Jillian. He couldn't endanger her like that. It was already bad for them, just he and his sister on the run, and he felt like Jillian would be better off living her lonely human life rather than running away with him and getting into all this danger. And Jillian sort of understood where he's coming from, but at the same time it did not matter to her, and she really, really wanted to be with him, and she really wanted to join him, and she didn't care about the danger. She would gladly face it as long as she can be with him. But Caleb just refused. Eventually she understood that it's just not going to happen. But he promised that if his situation ever changes, if he and Lilith ever won't be in danger, he might come back to her and he might grant her this wish, even if it takes years, even if it takes decades. And Jillian, well, like, part of her wasn't happy about that because she imagined that she would be this old grandma and he would come back to her and he wouldn't like her anymore. And then, like, what if he would like her, but he would turn her at, what about her? Like, will she be stuck as an old lady forever? And would she be, like, old and ugly forever? Not that old ladies are ugly, not saying that, but she felt like that. But it was the best deal they could get together. So she sort of agreed. And then, unfortunately, the coven once again figured out where Caleb and Lilith are, and Caleb and Lilith had to run away once more. Eventually, they settled down in Forgotten Hollow, which was a very risky move because Vlad was there, and Vlad was kind of known for being evil and scary, and that's a story for another day. But it worked out for them. The coven left them alone, and eventually, after many years, Caleb decided to pay a visit to Jillian. He didn't necessarily think he would turn her, but he just wanted to see her. And when he arrived in the mansion, he didn't find her. He found her children, and I'm just gonna say it right now, they were not his children. he and Jillian didn't have any children. These were not Caleb's kids, these were Jillian's and this old Lord guy's children. And he asked about their mother, and the children told him that she passed away from an illness a couple of years ago, which broke his heart, and suddenly he wished he had turned her, because they could have. First off, he would save her from this sickness. Second, they could have had this beautiful life together, and he saw these children, and he was like, maybe we could have had that. He wasn't sure if he could have children as a vampire, but he was like, maybe somehow we would have that. And it really broke his heart. It really broke him, and I really don't know how to put this appropriately, because I joke about depression a lot as a depressed person, but like, it gave him massive depression. And when I say massive, I mean massive. Like, I feel like if you're a vampire and if you're immortal and your mortal lovers die, I feel like that's a whole other kind of depression. And he didn't get out of bed for months, and Lilith had to feed him blood because she was worried he would die and he would give up completely and all. And after this, he swore that he would never fall in love again. Like, sure, there later on were some, like, I don't know, one night stands and stuff like that, but he swore he would never fall in love again. And fast forward to 21st century, and a certain red-haired idiot, and yeah, the rest is history. And I would also really like to tell you about some sort of like soulmate theory, something that I'm playing around with. It's been 3 years or 4 years since I came up with this, and I'm still not sure if I want to go with it. I kind of do, but at the same time I'm like, that's so cheesy. But I think we don't have enough time for that. I think you can imagine what this soulmate theory is, and I spoke about it a long time ago on my Tumblr, so if you're interested, go search my Tumblr. You will have to look for posts that are like 3-4 years old, but if you're really interested, they are there. Anyway, I'm gonna go now, so I hope you enjoyed me creating this sim. I hope you enjoyed her storyline, and I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Bye everyone.